Welcome back to the Lars Larson Show. It's Wednesday on the Radio Northwest Network. Glad to be with you and glad to talk to you as well. We've got a lot to talk about today. I want to start with our quick poll, and we're going to talk to the mayor of Tualatin, which yesterday voted. And I don't know if the politicians do not get a message when 75% of the voters in a special election say we deserve to get a choice. If you're going to build some cockamamie light rail train at multi-billion-dollar price tags, we should get to vote on it first. So here's the way I'm going to frame the quick poll. For every community in the Northwest, should voters get a choice at the polls on any major new projects like bridges, light rail, public buildings, or anything like that? I think you should ask the voters. We're talking about capital improvements. In the case of the Columbia River crossing, $200 million down the drain, and the people of Southwest Washington and of Oregon did not want that bridge. The politicians did, the construction companies did, but the politicians were not listening to the people. Now, if you had to put it to a vote, you'd have to make sure that you could sell that project. Now, think about this personally. At the job where you work, if you want to walk in and tell the boss, hey, boss, we ought to invest $100,000 or $1 million or $10 million or a $500 million in something, do you think maybe that the stockholders of the company might want to have something to say about that? Well, in this case, the stockholders are the people of Oregon and Washington. And I think the politicians in the state of Oregon should pay special attention to what happened in that election yesterday. 75% of the voters said, if you want to build a big, expensive project like a light rail line, that was the center of this whole debate over that vote yesterday. You want to build a $1 billion light rail line? The one that is running now from Portland down through Milwaukee toward Oregon City is a $1.5 billion white elephant. It cost far more money than it will ever be worth. It will not provide better service. It will provide degraded transit service, and I can back that up. Then why don't you go out and ask the folks who are going to pay the tab? And if you don't want to ask them, there's a reason for that. You know, when you're 16 years old and you decide to do something and you decide you don't need to ask mom and dad, you know it's because mom and dad wouldn't approve. Well, in this case, when the folks that work for us, the governor, the state legislature, everybody who works in state and county and local government, including Tom Hughes over at Metro, when they say, you know, we want to do this, we want to build a convention center, and we know that if we ask the public for permission, they would turn us down because they know that it's a boondoggle. It's their money down the tubes. If they've decided that they don't need to ask you and don't want to ask you, there's a reason for that. And what they should do is have the sense to say, the only time we go to the public is when we can go to the public and say, this is such a darn good project that all of you will see the reason that we're putting your dollars into it. And if they can't make that case, the thing shouldn't be built. Let's go to John in Camas, Washington. And if you want to jump in, it's 866-439-5277. Local number 503-417-9595. John, what's on your mind?
Lars, I'm absolutely delighted with the vote in Tualatin. It's an absolute home run. And as you said earlier, what were the other 25% thinking when they said they don't want to say so and how their tax money's spent?
You know, the idea that you go to the polls, or in this case, pick up the ballot at home when it comes in the mail and say, yeah, do I trust those guys to make multi-billion-dollar decisions on capital projects? Sure. I trust the bunch down at City Hall. They'll make great decisions. They must not have been listening to the radio or watching the news lately with all the crash and burns we've had from government.
Absolutely. You know, and this allows us to tie into over here in Clark County. We've been saying no, not only to bringing Portland's financially troubled light rail into Clark County, but also on bus rapid transit. Last fall, 63% of the voters were given an advisory vote and said no to bringing bus rapid transit into Clark County without a vote of the people. And yet, sadly, earlier this summer, not only did the C-Tran Board of Directors vote to go ahead with bus rapid transit, but also the Regional Transportation Council moved ahead, opposing the will of the people and denying them the vote we were promised. And it's just very frustrating. Furthermore, 2 years ago in 2011, C-Tran asked the voters for a 0.2% sales tax increase to keep current bus service here in Clark County. And as part of that campaign, they absolutely promised none of that sales tax money would go for bus rapid transit, and if they ever wanted to move for bus rapid transit in the future, they would give the people a vote. And here, 2 years later, they've ignored their promise to give the people the vote, and it's outrageous. So I hugely applaud the people in Tualatin for demanding a right to vote, and I certainly hope it sends a message here in Clark County that the people rise up and say no to our bus rapid transit here.
And doesn't it just bamboozle you when you see people like Tim Levitt, who ran for mayor of Vancouver on a campaign that he would oppose tolling of Interstate 5 and the bridge there, and the minute he got in office, he flipped his position 180 degrees. Now, obviously, it didn't work out well for him because the little conspiracy that Levitt and the city council of Portland and the governor and a lot of other people had to build the bridge, tell the voters whatever it takes to get you elected, and then once you're in, go the other direction. It didn't work out well for them. And I just had Ignacio write in and say, Lars, please point out to your current caller that the city of Milwaukee did vote on light rail twice, and they voted no on it, and the government fathers still jammed it through. And they're right.
Absolutely correct. And it's so sad when government officials elected to represent the people do exactly the opposite. You know, and I was one of those that sent money to Tim Levitt because he was opposed to bringing light rail into Clark County. And so I was absolutely livid. And so when given the chance a year ago, I helped try to unseat him with Bill Turley, and sadly we failed in that effort. But by golly, we're not stopping our battle here on Clark County, and I'm delighted to help the folks in Milwaukee and Tualatin and all these other communities fight the expansion of Portland's TriMet and light rail. And ultimately, the answer, as you well know, is John Charles of the Cascade Policy Institute, who's done amazing studies and who said TriMet's on its way to bankruptcy, and the easy answer for the small communities is to bail out of TriMet.
That's right.
The city of Sandy did it, and Sandy went from taxing their citizens to provide public transportation. They now provide free transportation with the savings they realized as a result of getting out of TriMet.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think that folks who run for public office, one of the questions we should start asking every single person who runs for city council, county commission, or any other government position should be, if you decide to make a major capital improvement or change or build something brand new, do you believe the voters should always have a vote on major capital changes? And if you say no to that, I won't give you my vote for the